Well, hello there, and welcome to Nowhere to Hide. I'm Brian Hyde. School choice, we knew, was going to be a big issue in the current Idaho legislative session. The governor talked about it in his State of the State address a couple of days ago, and well, let's just say that there is a bill that has come out that is possibly the boldest bill in the nation when it comes to school choice. And I've got the details in just a few moments.
All reporters are biased, the Idaho Press Club are biased, all media, newspaper, radio.
To be completely blunt here, Brian, and there are plans to expand
indoctrination.
That's right.
Well, Idahoans are also concerned.
Horror shot. That line would be moving a little bit farther west.
I'm like crying.
Nobody wants to see
Dark money is influencing policy.
Once again, welcome to Nowhere to Hide. I'm Brian Hyde, and I'm excited for this legislative session, even though it's a sure bet. This is going to be somewhat of a contentious one, especially over the issue of school choice. Now, we kind of talked a little bit about the governor's State of the State address, and he hit a lot of the talking points. Look at these investments we're making. Look at all the blessings that the political class is bestowing upon the citizens of the state of Idaho. And he gave what felt like a reluctant nod to, and we understand that school choice is important to some of you. And so he reluctantly offered, here's $50 million out of a multi-billion-dollar budget, a mere pittance to test the waters. Only we're going to make sure that it has all the proper oversight and accountability and all the government strings attached to make sure that we are still firmly in control of every child's education. Okay, I'm translating a little bit, but essentially this is what he was talking about. So now there is a bill that has been put forward. It is a bold one. But before we go there, let's talk just a little bit about what the governor promised. Now, I'm leaning on President Ron Nate from the Idaho Freedom Foundation. He broke down the governor's State of the State address, and he says the governor wasn't off base on everything, just almost everything. But there were two bright spots that we might help him with. One of them was school choice. The governor wants to spend $50 million on a limited, highly regulated school choice program, mainly focused on special needs children and low-income families. Now, Ron says it's good to help these groups, but we can do more. While the governor may want a mini school choice plan with strings, the legislature could put him to the test by passing a robust bill with no strings attached and no possibility of it impacting homeschool families. So there's reason to be hopeful about legislators passing a meaningful school choice bill. And I'm telling you, this bill that has been introduced, it's a dandy. It really hits a lot of the points of what it's supposed to be. It was put forth by Representative Clint Hostetler. He says, here it is, the gold standard for school choice. I trust our parents to make the right decisions for their children, not our governor or administrations. By the way, his priorities are correct. He's absolutely on target here. Clint says we don't need another watered-down proposal with more accountability or means testing. We need to give unfettered access to all. Let our parents keep their tax dollars to invest in their children's education the best way they see fit. If implemented, this can force the change needed to bring competition and accountability to what many believe is a broken system. The beauty of this is it's not like this money was in the state coffers and then they had to pay it all back out. No, this is money that stays in the parents' pocket, and they are credited on their taxes if they spend it toward their child's education. Whose money? The person who earned it. The person whose pocket it is sitting in, not the government's. Although you'll see politicians, and you'll see some in the media treat it like, well, that was our money, and they want to lay claim. And yet if you were to ask them, is there any rate so high that you would say, hey, that's immoral. We shouldn't be claiming that much of somebody's labor and that much of their money. They can't come up with an answer, which means they would take it all if they could. Anyway, let's dive into some of the specifics here. Now, the bill itself is pretty lengthy. I'm not going to just read, the whole thing for you, but I would encourage you, go and check this out for yourself. But I want you to note how bold this bill is. This may be the boldest of its type in the nation. Being enacted by the legislature of the state of Idaho, it is the intent of the legislature that parents and legal guardians in this state be able to choose educational opportunities, services, and experiences that meet the unique and varied need of their individual children. The legislature affirms that parents and legal guardians are best suited to make decisions to help children in this state reach their full potential and achieve a brighter future. It is the intent of the legislature to ease the financial burden of providing education for parents and legal guardians whose children are not enrolled in a public school public charter school, public virtual charter school, public magnet school, or public kindergarten. There's a word that he's using there, and it's very deliberate. And this is, again, these choices need to happen outside of the government-run school system. Let's look at a couple of points here, too, that are really worth highlighting here. The parental choice tax credit shall be administered as provided in this section. For tax year 2025 and subsequent tax years, there shall be allowed a refundable tax credit against the tax imposed by this chapter for any parent or legal guardian who incurs qualified expenses up to $9,500 on behalf of a qualifying child who is properly claimed on the parent's or legal guardian's full-time Idaho resident individual income tax return. The refundable tax credit in this section may be claimed for each qualifying child of the taxpayer. Funds received from a grant under Section 33-103 Idaho Code and other government educational grant programs do not qualify for this credit. So there's a nice separation there. This is not the public's money. This is the parents' own money that they are being credited toward on their taxes. Brilliant. And look at that, $9,500. What could you do for your child if you had $9,500 to spend on that child's education? I'm willing to bet a person could do a lot, and maybe even more efficiently than the government school system, but don't say that too loud. It's going to cause some panic. Here's another couple of sections that are worth highlighting. This section does not permit any government agency to exercise control or supervision over any non-public school. So here goes all of those strings and means-based testing and accountability that the governor's talking about. No, you get government out of these children's education and let their parents determine what is best. Now, I know this is anathema to people who are raised on the idea that if it's out of the state's control, it's out of control. And that's what they were taught. Guess where they were taught it? Yeah, if you said public schools, you would be right. A non-public school that accepts a payment as a result of a refundable tax credit pursuant to this section is not an agent of the state or federal government. A non-public school shall not be required to alter its creed, practices, admissions policy, or curriculum in order to accept students whose payment of tuition or fees stems from a refundable tax credit under this section. That is true school choice. That is true freedom. It means you don't have coercive government or the strings attached to you that money by coercive government dictating your choices. This section does not expand the authority of any government agency to exercise control or supervision over any parent or legal guardian, nor does it create any additional obligations for parents or legal guardians. The duties and responsibilities of a parent or legal guardian toward a child and the child's education are not altered or expanded by claiming the refundable tax credit in this section. Dang, that truly is bold right there. So how do people react? Well, let's start with the Times News, magicvalley.com. Why? Twin Falls Representative Hostetler introduces $250 million private school tax credit legislation. Now, notice they only limit it to private schools. And the implication here is it's only religious private schools, which they're going to be teaching your kids all kinds of Christian nationalist stuff. It's not true. And it's interesting, the $250 million, that's the cap. Up to $250 million can be given as this tax credit or can be, refunded to these people in the form of a tax credit. And it'll be done on a first filed taxes basis if it comes to that, if it's that popular. But if it's that popular, that should tell you something about how much a program like this is needed. But this first little bit of panic, I can't wait to see what the Idaho Statesman has to say. They're probably still trying to get the smelling salts to kick in to snap them out of whatever funk this bill put them into. Idaho Freedom Foundation says this bill is truly the gold standard in school choice. Why? No government-imposed teacher certification, curriculum, or testing requirements. If the legislature really cares about school choice and letting the parents choose their child's education, they will pass this bill. And the only thing I can think of that will stop some legislators from coming on board and making this an idea whose time has come is their fear of teachers' unions or the public school establishment. The establishment Republicans especially seem to be beholden to those special interests. But we shall see. Again, this is a very, very bold bill. There's nothing quite like it in the nation. And it really does give serious school choice without a bunch of government strings. Clint Hostetler says this simple, straightforward bill gives parents a $9,500 tax credit they can apply toward private school, homeschooling, or tutoring. So take that, Times News. It's not just private schools. And this is true choice for parents who want alternatives for failing public schools. Idaho legislators are going to see more than one school choice bill. He's right, by the way. And the squishy Republicans, the Democrats, and their backers on the left, they know this issue is popular, so they're going to trot out these nonsense bills and call it school choice. Beware. This is what school choice looks like. And kudos to Representative Clint Hostetler for putting that forth. One more, just going back to what Ron Nate was saying as he was analyzing Brad Little's State of the State address. This is something you need to remember with any of the proposed school choice bills, including this House Bill 1. True school choice needs to be generous so that families can truly benefit. It needs to be universal so all families may use it, not just those with special needs or low income. It needs to be free of onerous regulations so it isn't strangled in the crib. School choice delivered through a well-designed, refundable education tax credit can save Idahoans tax dollars, produce better education results, and take the burden off a broken, expensive public school system. Families, teachers, children, and schools will all benefit from education choice done right. So it'll be interesting. This is definitely going to be a battle. You know that this is going to be a challenge, and there will be those who will howl to the moon that this choice is even being presented. But maybe it's an idea whose time has come. We shall see. Let's hope that it is. I'm Brian Hyde, and this is Nowhere to Hide.
All reporters are biased. The Idaho Press Club are biased. All media, newspaper, radio.
To be completely blunt here, Brian, and there are plans to expand
indoctrination.
That's right.
Idahoans are also concerned.
Horror shot. That line would be moving a little bit farther west.
I'm like crying.
Nobody wants to see
Dark money is influencing policy